Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll update you on the issues, policies, and regulations that may impact the beef industry. Plus, find out all you need to know to attend this year's NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. We begin in our nation's capital, where the new president and his potential policy decisions continue to be an ongoing topic of discussion. While it's too early to determine the long-term impact the Trump administration will have on the beef industry, the NCBA staff in D.C. continues to work with the president and his advisors to ensure they understand the issues that are important to cattle-producing families all across our country. We asked cattlemen and women from around the country what message they would like to send to President Trump and his administration.
Listen to us. I think it's important that the administration and all those within it listen to the folks who have boots on the ground, that understand the issues we're facing day to day, and to help us just navigate our way through them.
I really hope that the Trump administration will look at the impacts of regulation as they have on agriculture. I hope they will understand the importance of trade to our markets and the sustainability of our agricultural operations.
Keep doing what you're doing. I've been a Trump supporter, and I appreciate a man for his honesty, and he's doing what he said he's going to do. But just remember that rural America got you there.
The message that I'd like to communicate to the new administration is that the ag industry is big. We're an important part to the economy of the country, and that we really need to be at the table. And I think we're going to have more of an opportunity to get our voice and our concerns across.
Make sure you don't regulate us out of what we do. Make sure that we have that platform to keep operating like we do in our autonomous matter, but also providing beef for the world. So make sure we don't regulate us out of that.
Well, I think first of all, you got to keep an open mind. We need to keep an open relationship with these other countries that we want to sell to, and countries that we're selling to currently. I mean, the relationships that we have right now with just the countries that we deal with and trade with now, we need to maintain that relationship so we can continue trade.
I'm excited about the Trump administration, so thankful that he was elected, and look forward to it. I think we all still have some unknowns as to what he will do, but I'm confident that Donald Trump will surround himself with quality people, well-researched, make sound scientific decisions. And so I think with that, I say, Donald Trump, welcome to the cattle business. Come see us and let us know how we can help you.
Joining us now with more on the political climate in Washington is Colin Woodall, NCBA's Senior Vice President of Legislative Affairs. Colin, thanks for joining us.
Always great to be with you, Kevin.
It's certainly been an eventful beginning to 2017 in Washington, D.C. so far. Some of the biggest immediate impacts have been on the regulatory front. Can you catch us up on what's happened on regulations like GIPSA and the waters of the United States that can affect cattlemen and women?
Well, we knew with the new president coming in place that we would have a great opportunity here to roll back a lot of the rules and regulations that we have been dealing with and we have saw put in place by the Obama administration. In particular, you'd mentioned WOTUS and the GIPSA rule. Waters of the United States, the EPA rule that would expand their jurisdiction is, of course, top of mind for us. In fact, we know that the president has signed an executive order that has started the process to stop the Waters of the United States rule. It's great news for all of us in agriculture, something we've been waiting for. So we're excited about taking that burden off of us. That just leaves GIPSA as one of the others that we have to address. And really, until we get the new Secretary of Agriculture put in place, it's going to be hard to get a final decision there. But we are in the process of submitting comments to making sure that they understand that this has come up before. We were able to make a case as to why it would not work. And we do believe that Sonny Perdue, once he gets confirmed as Secretary of Agriculture, will agree with us that this rule will take away our marketing opportunities. So we are optimistic that we'll be able to kill this rule as well.
You know, another issue that's seen a lot of activity already this year is trade. Do you mind talking a little bit about the latest on international trade and why it's so important for the cattle industry?
Trade's so incredibly important, especially in this market situation we're dealing with right now, where we have a lot of supply and we need to make sure that we've got plenty of demand to take on that supply. That not only means taking care of our consumers here domestically, but ensuring that we have as much access as possible to the 96% of the world's consumers that live outside of the United States. That's why we need to make sure that we have access, and the only way that you get access is through trade deals. So in particular, we're going to be looking at working with the Trump administration to try to get a bilateral trade agreement put together with the Japanese government. This will pick up where TPP left off. That was the one area within TPP that we were focused on the most, and trying to get the 38.5% tariff that we had into Japan taken down to hopefully what will be less than what was negotiated in TPP, which was 9%. So we are going to take the president at his word that hopefully he can get a better deal, and we're going to support him in that effort.
I understand the Senate Agricultural Committee recently held its first field hearing as they prepare to draft a new farm bill this year. What's the timeline on that legislation, and what is NCBA looking for in that new farm bill?
So the current farm bill expires on September 30th of 2018. So really it doesn't give us all that much time when you look at the field hearings that have to be done, passage of a bill in both the House and Senate, a conference committee, and then ultimately signing by the president. But both the House and Senate Ag committees have made a concerted effort to move forward very quickly. Of course, we had the Senate Ag Committee field hearing in Manhattan, Kansas, and also the House Ag Committee have had several hearings here in Washington, D.C., which NCBA has been a part of. When we look at the Farm Bill, we want to make sure that we have a very strong conservation title that protects the programs that a lot of our members utilize, but we also want to make sure that we remove a lot of the red tape that comes along with the application process. These programs are important. We just need to make sure they're as easy to use as possible. We also want to make sure that we are protecting the research title, so that way we have all the funding necessary in order to really improve our production practices and support the research that is done at USDA and through our land-grant university systems. And really our top ask is going to be to make sure that we have a vaccine bank in place for foot and mouth disease vaccine. One thing that we really just don't have right now, and we need to make sure that we correct that in order to respond to any sort of reintroduction of foot and mouth disease here in the United States.
Of course, NCBA's big legislative conference is coming up in Washington, D.C. from March 28th through the 30th. Why do you think cattlemen and women should join you in our nation's capital, and specifically, how do they get registered to attend?
Well, it's just a great opportunity to be a part of the process. When you look at Washington, D.C. and the policymaking process, you have to show up, you have to be engaged, and you have to pitch your concerns. That is why legislative conference is so important for us, because it gives you that opportunity, one, to get an update from us on all the issues we're working on, but two, to be able to take that information, go to Capitol Hill, go visit with all the policymakers, and make sure that your voice is being heard. So we're excited about having this come up, especially with the new Congress and the new administration in place. And if you haven't had the opportunity to register yet, just go to our website, www.beefusa.org, in order to sign up and come and join us here at the end of March in Washington, D.C.
There was some chatter online a while back about bringing back government-mandated country of origin labeling. Why do you think that would be a bad idea, Colin?
It's a bad idea on many different levels, but we just have to go back and look at the fact that country of origin labeling was the law of the land for 6.5 years. And in that 6.5 years, it did not help us. More importantly, the consumers weren't really paying attention to it. So we have to ask ourselves, why would we spend the money in order to implement a program, a mandatory government-run program that didn't provide any benefits to us or to the consumer? Not a single credible ag economist can point to anything that we gained in value. So when we keep that in mind, it's hard to believe that we would want to spend the effort to bring this program back, especially knowing that we have voluntary programs in place today that can satisfy that need where it exists. As cattle producers, we rarely want the government coming in and telling us how to operate our business. Why in this situation do we want the government coming in and trying to put a mandatory government-run program on top of us? So that's why we remain against country of origin labeling, and we'll continue to do everything we can to make sure that it does not return in the Farm Bill or any other vehicle.
Thanks again, Colin, for your time and for all the hard work you and your team do on behalf of our beef industry.
Thank you, Kevin.
Now, if you'd like to support the beef industry, why not become an NCBA member? By doing so, you'll be sustaining the work of NCBA in defending and advocating for the cattle industry in Washington, D.C. It's easy to do. Just call toll-free 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit the website beefusa.org. Now, as you've just heard, there's a chance coming up for you to join us on Capitol Hill and have your voice heard. Brian Baxter has a preview of the 2017 NCBA Legislative Conference and why it's important for cattle producers to participate in this event.
Just as the trees and flowers bloom near the U.S. Capitol, another sign of spring is the hundreds of cowboy hats and boots scattered across Capitol Hill as cattlemen and women from across the nation gather to make sure their voices are heard by decision makers in Washington.
It is hugely important to have our ranchers come to Washington, D.C. It is an opportunity for the hats and boots to be on Capitol Hill and let our congresswomen and congressmen and senators know the important issues of the day facing the ranching business.
We're here in Washington, D.C. to really talk to our legislators on the Hill. It's important that they know who their constituents are and that they have cattlemen out there that have real concerns. And so this is our time every year to come up here, go to one-on-one visits with our state congressional delegations and our agencies that really work with us and let them know what is of concern to us.
Coming up at the end of March, the 2017 NCBA Legislative Conference, sponsored by Elanco, gives cattlemen and women an opportunity to connect with members of Congress, as well as those who lead federal agencies such as the EPA and the USDA.
And I think this is where you find out what are some of the rules and regulations that are going to impact your business and whether you're going to be able to be in business in the next 5-10 years. So I think you need to get engaged. This is a great avenue to find out how the process works that has long-lasting effects on your operation.
There's so few folks involved in agriculture, and so it's important that we bind together and bring our voice to Washington where so many of the decisions are made that impact our operations. It's powerful to join together with our fellow producers from across the country and help leverage our policy positions to congressmen and other decision makers so we can continue to have a profitable industry.
There's no doubt a decision or a policy made in Washington, D.C. can very directly impact those who live and work in cattle country. That's why several hundred cattlemen and women are making their plans to head to Washington, D.C. later this month to get their boots on the Hill as part of the 2017 Legislative Conference. I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
The 2017 NCBA Spring Legislative Conference is an important event, so why not make plans to join us in our nation's capital? It's March 28th through the 30th in Washington, D.C. Find details on how to register online at the website beefusa.org. Up next on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll discuss some of the many benefits of becoming a member of NCBA. And later, we'll have market insights from our friends at CattleFacts. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Grazon Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
Sure, cattle bring in the profits, but Case IH equipment helps you do everything else.
Welcome back. The challenges cattlemen and women face these days are growing. That's why it's important to have an organization like NCBA to help represent U.S. cattle producers and their interests. And joining us now to talk more about the importance of joining NCBA is Sam Albrecht. He's the Senior Director of Membership. Sam, thanks for coming to the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Tell our viewers a little bit about the value they receive when they become NCBA members.
Well, the true value of membership is that work we do every day in Washington, D.C. to make sure that those producers at home can focus on their operational stuff on the farm, on the ranch, and not worry about what's going on in D.C. with legislative issues, regulatory issues, all that stuff.
Now, we mentioned legislative and regulatory issues, and certainly the 2017 priorities have been established by NCBA. How does being a member assist in achieving those priorities?
Well, you know, there's strength in numbers. So the more NCBA members we can have, the more our voice can be heard in Washington, D.C. And those are the issues that producers have decided to focus on for the year, and they're the issues that we're hearing about on a regular basis, and we can get more done with more members, and that's what is really important.
It really is about numbers of people, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And we've been talking about the legislative conference coming up here in March. Why is it important for producers to put that on their schedule?
It's really important for that Ledge Conference to attend that and really learn how to work with legislators. And we actually do some prep and training on how to focus on those issues, and then we go out on the Hill and we visit with legislators in both the House of Representatives and the Senate and the agencies. And so by doing that, you're able to have those legislators connect with you and get that local voice on those national issues. And then the flip side of that is then you can go home and talk to your state legislative representatives and then say, look, I've been to Washington, D.C., I've talked about this on the national level, this is extremely important, and it's also important on a state level, and here's why. And then you can make that connection again at the state level too.
Create some consistency between the messages being shared, the state houses, as well as the United States Capitol.
The consistency is extremely important, and that it's important enough for the producer to make the trip to D.C. and then to the state Capitol to send the same messages.
Now, Sam, I know you've been traveling a lot. You visit a lot of conventions across this country. What are you hearing from producers as you visit those state conventions?
Well, there's two issues that always come up: weather and the cattle market. But in addition to those, we hear the same thing that's on our 2017 priority list. How do we work with these federal agencies? How do we reduce burdensome regulations? How do we work with NRCS and EPA and Fish and Wildlife Service and all these guys in order to make sure that we can run our operation smoothly? So those are the things that we're hearing in the field.
I want to come back to something you said relative to this collaboration and cooperation between the state and national level. And we talk a lot at NCBA about the state and national partnership. What is that and why is that so important?
You know, we work very closely with at the national level with those state affiliates, and they're really our voice on what's going on that state level for the producers. And then it feeds up into that national priority issues that we come up with every year. So it really helps to have that relationship with the state level. We recommend folks join both the state and the national Cattlemen's Beef Association in order to make sure that our voice, and again, it goes back to that strength in numbers. The more members we've got in the states affiliates, the more members we've got at national, the more we can get done.
So I wanted to ask you about that because I know some people who say, Kevin, I'm a member of the state association. I really don't have time to get involved nationally or come to national convention. Why should I be a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association in addition to my state association? What do you say to those folks?
I tell those folks, you know, everything that I hear at the state board meetings and the state legislative reports has a national impact to it, whether it's working with NRCS, whether it's working with Fish and Wildlife on depredation permits, whether it's working on permits from BLM and Forest Service. It's very important at the state level, but it's also important at the national level. And if you can't separate state and national issues anymore because it's just so important. It's so intertwined and so important to work on both sides of the equation, the state side and the national side.
And I guess the most important question we should ask is, how do people become a member of NCBA?
Well, we make it pretty easy for folks. All you got to do is go to the beefusa.org website, click on the Join Now button, and fill out the form, and you're a member. Or you can call the 1-800 number and join that way.
Fantastic. Sam, thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing some perspective about the value of NCBA membership.
You bet, absolutely.
Sam mentioned some of the great reasons to become an NCBA member, but another one is the chance to read the National Cattlemen. It's the official publication of NCBA and provides timely news and articles about the issues and events affecting the beef industry. A subscription is included free of charge when you become a member of NCBA. Joining is easy. Just give us a call at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit us online at beefusa.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take you inside the recent Cattle Facts Outlook seminar and hear what the experts think for market prices during the rest of 2017. And later, we'll see how one Colorado operation works to produce the best possible seed stock for their customers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Don't miss the 2017 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with key congressional and federal agency influencers and let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. March 28th through the 30th for the 2017 NCBA Legislative Conference. Together, we can do more. Details at beefusa.org.
Want more profit out of your pasture? Then here's our 2 cents on using parasite control to make some dollars. In a trial of calves, Long Range outperformed Sidectin and Safeguard dewormers combined by as much as an extra 40 pounds. Yeah, that's a lot of extra profit, and that's why it pays to treat cattle with Long Range. Do not treat within 48 days of slaughter. Not for use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older, including dry dairy cows or in veal calves. Post-injection site damage can occur. These reactions have disappeared without treatment. You can't afford another season without Long Range.
Welcome back. There were many great things to see and do at the record-breaking Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Nashville. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Russell Nemitz joins us with a recap of one of those can't-miss events.
All right, thanks a lot, Kevin. And you know, one of the highlights at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show every year is the Cattle Facts Market Outlook Seminar. And with us today is one of their leading market analysts, Kevin Good. And I know it's hard to summarize a 2-hour presentation in 3 or 4 minutes, but really for all sectors of the beef cattle industry, Kevin, what does 2017 look like and maybe look like beyond?
Well, I think guarded optimism would be a way to start out, but also some challenges as we think about where we're at within the cattle cycle in particular. You know, we've had tremendous profitability at cow-calf level for the last 3 to 4 years, and with that and improved moisture conditions, you know, we're in the midst of some very rapid expansion. We've expanded the beef cow herd by over 2 million head the last 3 years, and with that, now we've got bigger calf crops and bigger production to deal with not only bigger beef production, we've also got bigger beef, pork, and poultry production, and that amounts to enough product that prices have deteriorated over the last year and a half. That's the news that's a little bit hard to swallow, but the good news is that we're starting to see exports pick up and that prices appear to have leveled out here, at least for the intermediate term as we go through 2017, and at a level that most folks in the cattle production system can make a profit at.
You know, as we look at 2017 and beyond, I mean, certainly we're kind of in some unstable and challenging situation and waters versus what we've been used to for the past 5 to 7 years. One of the key messages that I heard is it's going to be absolutely critical for these different producers at the different levels of the industry to manage their risk.
Well, that's no doubt. You know, we think about the kind of volatility we've experienced the last couple of years, and frankly, for the margin operators, we're talking about feedlots and stocker operators, they've had 2 tough years back to back. So despite the fact the cow-calf side is pretty flush as far as profits, those segments, the margin operators are in the midst here of getting some of that losses back as we look at 2017. And you know, risk management is going to be key because a lot of those folks really can't afford to have another tough year.
You know, a big part of the audience that we serve is obviously the cow-calf sector, and you guys also mentioned that in order for the cow-calf sector to even have a chance at being profitable, we have to have stability at the feedlot sector as well.
Well, that's true. You know, the guys above you in the chain have to make a little money once in a while too, so they can pass it on down to you. And in reality here, there's a couple factors. You know, profitability we do think will improve in 2017 for the feedlots. That's positive. But on the flip side of that, we still have some pretty big discounts in the deferred live cattle futures, which in a lot of cases are going to drive those feeder cattle and calf values as well. But we are guardedly optimistic that 2017 calf values can average on a 5-weight steer, U.S. average about $1.50 a pound. And if that's the case for most producers, that is at a profitable level.
Last question, then I'll let you go. What about for consumers at the meat case, and when we talk about the price of beef in comparison to those other proteins? I mean, it's probably never going to be where pork and chicken is at, but after all, it is the lobster tail of the meat case.
Well, let's hope we never are down in those levels, because in reality, it does cost more to produce beef versus pork and poultry, and if we want to do it at a profitable level, we need to continue to command a premium at retail. You know, that said, we also recognize that retail prices, they lag when we go up and they lag when we come down. So because we've had a big drop in fed and wholesale prices here over the last 18 months, retail prices did come down 5% in 2016. They're probably poised for another 5 to 10% drop in 2017. In fact, we think we'll continue to see more featuring of beef like we did this past year to get more of those consumers coming in the front door. Beef sells, and the retailer recognizes that, so we still are the king as far as the ad space at retail.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you as always joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
All right, there you go, Kevin. Some very insightful information, and as always, some very useful advice for cattlemen and cattlewomen nationwide from our friends at CattleFacts. With that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Thanks, Russell. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll head to northeastern Colorado for a closer look at a top-flight Red Angus seed stock operation. And later, one beef industry expert shares his market outlook for the rest of 2017. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Stay Tough fence will last 3 times longer and is 4 times stronger than low tensile fencing. High tensile wire, solid vertical stays, and tight fixed knots all provide superior strength. You will use fewer posts, saving time, labor, and money. Protect your investment for generations with Stay Tough fence. Stay strong, stay tight, stay tough.
Forward. It's more than a direction. It's mandatory, because the beef business rewards the progressive, the doers, the ones who know what it takes to go easy on cattle and never set them back. So set your eyes on the horizon, turn your back to the wind, and move your herd the only way you know. Forward. Vista Vaccines. Always ahead.
You're watching NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Selecting the right bull for your herd to produce calves that return more dollars is important to any cattle operation. Reporter Lane Nordland visits a Colorado family operation working to produce Red Angus bulls with a goal of improving profitability for their customers.
On the short grass plains of northeastern Colorado, Kevin and Sally Miller are evaluating their recently weaned Red Angus bulls for sale potential.
We run about 250 cows, give or take, depending on what Mother Nature provides us. We do it on about 10,000 acres. So if you do the math, that's about 42 acres per cow-calf pair for 8 months, because we still have to feed 4 months out of the year. Because when you look around and you see the short grass prairie that we're in, it doesn't stick around very long. So, you know, it's challenging at that aspect, but if it was easy, everybody'd do it.
We have a bull sale every spring, and where we sell 60 to 75 bulls a year. And then the bulls and heifers that do not make replacements, we have a small feed yard that we we'll usually finish them out in the feed yard. That way we can collect the genetic data, the carcass data, to help improve our herd.
Genetic improvement is a priority at Crocent Red Angus, and an emphasis on balanced trait selection helps them to produce the best possible seed stock for their customers.
We attack genetics from both sides a little bit. Larry, our partner in this deal, Sally's dad, he looks at things from the feed yard side quite a bit, but I also look at things from the cow-calf side of it a lot, and I deal with the cows more than I do the feed yard. But at the end of the day, we have to meet in the middle and make those genetics work, because from a commercial rancher's operation, that's exactly what they have to do. They have to meet in the middle. So we are looking for females that can survive in a semi-arid environment and then be able to produce a calf. A cow has a job description everywhere, and I would say here it is for you to bring in a calf every year and to provide a seed stock calf at least 2 out of 3 years. And so that incorporates all the genetic component that we'll talk about here, but it also incorporates in, growth and the other elements that, docility, things like that. And then the other side of it is we're in the beef industry. We want to create tasty, nutritious products for our consumers. And so that side of it, we look at carcass traits very much so. And, marbling is one of those, big ticket items because, that's where the taste in beef comes out.
Kevin and Sally's cattle produce and reproduce in environments and with challenges similar to what their bull customers face.
Our goal starts with the cows because the people buying our bulls, they need some cow herd efficiency traits, reproductive efficiency, some feed efficiency as well. But when I sit down and look at the goals of our operation, I think they're very closely mirrored within most of our commercial customers. Within our system, we try to manage our entire cow herd as what commercial customers would. And so there isn't a whole lot of added extras into anything. And so I think that's one of the places where you start is, does my system reflect a commercial operational system, as closely as possible? The other thing is we collect all the data. I'm a spreadsheet monkey, and I like data, and I like to analyze data and make sure that we're doing the right things for our customers. And so when you look at these bulls, they not only have their year's worth of data back behind them, but they have generations worth of full data back behind them.
The collection of herd data from birth to harvest has qualified Crocent Genetics for the Top Dollar Angus program. This certification provides customers with more opportunities to access higher value markets for their calves.
We have to keep creating more opportunities to make a dollar, because it's just one of those where you have to keep creating. If you can't keep doing the same thing all the time, or it gets stale. So we're just keep looking at different opportunities.
One of the added benefits of customer service is that we will actually provide the enrollment fee for Top Dollar Angus. And so when I look at our bull offering, probably 45% of them qualify for Top Dollar for last year. And so as an added customer service, we want you to be involved in those types of programs, because that gives you the most dollars back for your genetic investments. When you start looking at the backside benefits, you're looking anywhere from $5 to $10 a hundredweight at weaning time going back into your pocket. And so we want to be involved in those types of programs that create value for our customers.
We'll talk with the customer, find out what their cow base is, find out what their goals are with their cows, talk to them about what they're looking for, and go through the catalog with them individually so that they can help pick out the right bulls that meet their needs.
Sale is the fourth Saturday in March. Several different ways you can bid. You can be here in person. You can contact myself or Larry to do a over the phone bid, or you can utilize DV auctions.
Reporting from the windswept plains of northeastern Colorado, I'm Lane Nordlund for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To learn more about Crocent Red Angus and request a catalog to their upcoming annual bull sale, just visit their website, crocentredangus.com. Still ahead, we'll check in with Baxter Black. Plus, hear from one of the experts who spoke at the recent cattle industry convention in Nashville. Stay with us.
The Crocent family would like to invite you to the Crocent Red Angus annual production sale held the fourth Saturday of March in Briggsdale, Colorado. There will be an outstanding set of bulls that provide balance from calving ease through carcass traits and that create profitability for commercial producers. All bulls have been pap tested and have genomically enhanced EPDs. Plus, there will be commercial heifers ready to go to work for you from top Crocent genetics. Learn more about their program and add your name to their catalog mailing list at crocentredangus.com.
What does it mean to be dependable? It means you do what you say you'll do time and time again. Because performance isn't optional, and your task is essential. For over 95 years, we have proven ourselves to be the most dependable choice. That's why the cattlemen of this great nation trust Ritchie to provide fresh water on demand. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Welcome back. The recent cattle industry convention and NCBA trade show in Nashville had it all. Important policy decisions, producer education, networking, and a whole lot of fun. Russell Nemitz caught up with one of the great speakers from this year's event. Hi, Russell.
Thank you, Kevin. And of course, one of the highlights here at the Cattle Industry Convention every year for attendees is having the chance to hear renowned speakers talk about issues and other things that are impacting their industry and, of course, their farms and ranches back home. And in Nashville, one of the speakers was Glenn Tonser with Kansas State University's Economic Department. And I guess first, tell us what your presentation was all about here in Music City this year.
Sure. The purpose of my being here this year was to convey the results from a recent beef demand focus project. Specifically, myself and Ted Schroeder, also at K-State, worked on a project trying to explore if we can monitor and measure beef demand differently than we've done in the past.
You know, I guess for folks at home now, maybe just give us your perspective on where this market and how the beef demand equation all fits in.
Sure. Well, the market's complicated, as everybody understands, and at the end of the day, supply and demand drive the prices we observe in this industry. Leading up through 2014, both supply and demand were supportive, and then since then, we've actually had some, particularly in 2016, some weakness on beef demand and growing supplies. So a really long way of telling you that both supply and demand are massively impacting this marketplace.
Of course, producers are really watching their operating costs very closely in these times of uncertainty, if you will. Certainly we're off the market highs. You know, what's your advice for them on watching those input costs, controlling them, but still being able to maintain a viable farming and ranching operation?
Yeah, there's not a simple answer to that, but some of the work we've done at K-State finds that you have a lot less influence on the price you receive, in this case cattle price, than you do your input cost. So there's more opportunity to reduce costs than there is to maximize output price. And if you accept that, then actually I'm encouraging people to focus on their cost of running their business. And in particular, there's more variation in returns across people that are, cow-calf sector that is, that's driven by cost structure than there is on revenue variation. So if you can get more efficient, if you can reduce your labor cost per cow, right, or per steer at the feeder level, whatever level we're talking about, or your feed cost per unit, you stand a much better chance. How you do that varies a lot around this country, right? So I'm from Kansas. There's now folks that are feeding wheat that maybe didn't in the past. That's an example of taking advantage of an opportunity to use maybe a feed stuff we didn't before in response to lots of wheat being around, right? So as you go around the countryside, those opportunities vary, but regardless of where you're listening to this from, I encourage you to do something maybe a little different than you've done in the past as a way to get those per unit costs down, because obviously your output prices have come down notably over the last 18 months.
Obviously, you folks at Kansas State University work with a lot of producers, not just from Kansas, but across America. I mean, in relation to what you've just told me today, I mean, what are some of the things they're feeding back to you?
Well, several of the issues they're feeding back is the question about whether we've stopped herd expansion. So the cattle inventory reports recently come out. We won't belabor that here today. But in balance, there's growing questions about, have we stopped growing the herd? Should I personally continue to expand my herd? Those kind of things we hear a lot about. There's lots of discussion about the role of trade, right? Is that one of the reasons prices have come down or not? I'm happy to discuss that more if you want. That's a long answer to that. Exports are very good. Imports, I don't think, are the reason that prices are lower, would be the punchline of that. And the key part of that is we export very different products than we import. Most of us at face value recognize there's a very diverse set of products that come off a given animal. Some of those products have higher value outside the U.S. than they do inside the U.S. That's why we export. But there's also things like ground beef that we're a big fan of here in the U.S. that we can benefit by importing some pounds from elsewhere to enable us to produce more pounds of ground beef. So in a long answer to that is trade allows us to be more specialized and use all the different products coming off that carcass in a way that adds value to the total carcass. And it all gets down to diverse products that frankly needs to be appreciated more throughout the industry.
That's a great answer, because all these different parts of this big equation that make the beef cattle industry here in America successful have variable parts, obviously. And for young people, what's your advice in times like these?
Continue to come to meetings. It doesn't have to be only the annual NCBA meeting, of course, but your local ones, the national ones, do your best to be educated. Listen to wise people that have been through challenges before, right? Myself and people younger than me may not have seen the current challenges, but other generations have, so they have some lessons we should listen to. And moreover, be willing to adjust to survive. So I used the example earlier about using wheat in your ration. Maybe you haven't before. The specific opportunity is going to vary depending on the operation, but don't just run the operation in 2017 the way you did in 2016 just because that's what we did, right? Be open to tweak the process a little bit. Feed ration adjustments and those kind of things are kind of no-brainers to explore.
Any final thoughts before I let you go? Maybe summarize what we just talked about again as far as overall market outlook and just beef demand in general?
Yeah, just in general, I think beef demand took a hit in 2016. Going into 2017, it's going to be important to monitor. Circling back to why I'm actually at this meeting is hopefully we have some new ways to measure that are specific to the retail shelf. I won't belabor that for this segment, but let's look for that going forward is what I would tell producers. But more broadly, I would encourage producers to recognize that it's not just the supply, not just the calf crop that's impacting prices, but also consumer demand. Sometimes we lose sight of that, but the consumer demand drives how much value basically the beef industry has to work with, the total amount of consumer dollars that are subsequently shared, and we have to keep sight of that. And sometimes we lose sight of it, and we particularly lost sight of it in recent years when we had a tight supply story, and that's all we talked about.
Right. Well, thank you for being with us here in Nashville, and certainly joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go, Kevin. Glenn Tonser with Kansas State University and their economic department. As always, providing some very useful information for cattlemen and cattlewomen across the nation. With that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Thank you, Russell. When we return, we'll check in with Baxter Black. Stay with us.
No storm is too powerful for new Purina Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, formulated with ultimate weather resistance. That means more minerals in the feeder and available to your cattle. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals provide more consistent intake and balanced mineral nutrition to optimize herd health and breedback rates. See the difference at your local Purina dealer or visit cattlenutrition.com. Wind and Rain Storm Minerals, another way Purina is building better cattle.
Do you really think that's a good idea?
If everyone jumped off a cliff, would you do it too?
You'll lose interest. It's just a phase.
It hurts me more than it hurts you.
Where are your manners? Were you raised by wolves?
You're gonna give me a heart attack.
When you have kids, you'll understand.
This is the life of a rebel. Sorry, Mom.
Let's face it. You don't think a lot about your trailer hitch. You use it and forget it. We understand. But at B&W, we think about it. Short nights, long hauls, never-ending chores. The unthinkable. We think about it all, so you don't have to. B&W. Trusted.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
A year ago, I was approached to do a testimonial by an upscale, environmentally conscious maker of urban clothing. I figured it was better than Uncle Billy's baldness salve or Depends, so I told him I'd consider it as long as the product was biodegradable, herbivore-friendly, and barbecue-proof. They sent me a catalog with instructions to pick anything I wanted. I chose a brush jacket, but that's not what they called it. They're insulated and made out of canvas like wagon tarps or tents. These jackets are standard uniform in cow country where the mesquite thickets and other equally thorny, prickly, spiny, daggery menace awaits the dedicated cowboy. To maintain my own credibility and give it a fair endorsement, I put it to the test. At the next roundup, I donned my new jacket to gather cows with the crew. We started in the lower arroyos, riding through 2 miles of mesquite, dagger yucca, ocotillo trunks, and crucifix thorns as tall as a low windmill. Malicious thorns the size of pitchfork tines pierced my boot tops, my rhinoceros hide shafts, and the galvanized wrist cuffs. Cat claw, big as talons on the eagle, hooked and pulled at every piece of leather, flesh, or clothing that was exposed, leaving thousands of horizontal slashes and scrapes, shredding my tapaderos into ribbons and spun my rowels till they got so hot they set my boots on fire. Then, just for the sake of product integrity, I rolled through a pineapple field of barrel cactus, lay on the cattle guard, and let 2 loaded 20-foot stock trailers back over me slowly, and was dragged through a wet field of corn stubble by 2 3-year-old colts and lay underneath a '69 Ford pickup while they changed the oil. The results of my test: lost 1 button. A remarkable testament to the durability and toughness of their great brush jacket, which I guess allows me to keep it. That should help compensate for the burnt boots, melted spurs, shredded shafts, and 35 stitches. I only wish I could have found my other ear. This is Baxter Black from out there.
You're absolutely right, Baxter. It's always important to have the right clothes for the job. Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all of our shows filled with educational segments and producer profiles from around the country. It's also another chance to see Baxter Black. So check us out at youtube.com/Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We'll have more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this. Stay with us.
There is a new world out there, revealing itself in unpredictable ways. A world that demands more from the land and those who grow, farm, and build on it. This new world calls for the ingenuity to get more out of it, while preserving as much as we can. After all, to stay ahead of tomorrow, we need to be equipped for it today. New Holland, equipped for a new world.
The Croson family would like to invite you to the Croson Red Angus annual production sale held the 4th Saturday of March in Briggsdale, Colorado. There will be an outstanding set of bulls that provide balance from calving ease through carcass traits and that create profitability for commercial producers. All bulls have been pap tested and have genomically enhanced EPDs. Plus, there will be commercial heifers ready to go to work for you from top Croson genetics. Learn more about their program and add your name to their catalog mailing list at CrosonRedAngus.com.
Don't miss the 2017 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with key congressional and federal agency influencers and let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. March 28th through the 30th for the 2017 NCBA Legislative Conference. Together, we can do more. Details at beefusa.org.
Welcome back. If you'd like to learn more about what's happening with NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you can find us on Facebook. Be sure to like our page and we'll keep you updated with photos, details on upcoming shows, and much, much more. And it's a great way to connect with other cattlemen and women all across our country. So check us out on Facebook. You know, I always look forward to our Legacy Photos segment. It's a chance to check out some treasured moments captured and submitted by farming and ranching families. Let's take a look. Want to see your photo on Cattlemen to Cattlemen? You can submit your favorite shots at our website. That's cattlementocattlemen.org. Include your ranch or farm name and hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that's our time for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.